Good afternoon. C'est agréable d'être ici avec vous. 2 years ago, I stood on this stage for my first speech as President and CEO of IBC. I told you about a house fire that my family experienced when I was a kid. The fear of the moment, the stress of wondering how we'd get by financially, and the overwhelming sense of relief when our insurance company came to the rescue, repairing our home, paying for us to have a place to stay, even replacing some of our Christmas toys that we lost to the fire. To this day, when my dad tells the story, he says, "Insurance saved us." Today, I want to tell you a different story about my friend Melissa. It was June 2013 when the floods washed across southern Alberta. You might remember the videos of the Saddle Dome filling with water up to the 10th row of seats. Melissa lived in High River, just south of Calgary. Her mom and dad were busy raising 5 kids in a beautiful home. Despite what you might think from the name, High River, Melissa's house was not on a floodplain. But her parents were smart and cautious. They paid for sewer backup coverage. They wanted to protect their house and their finances. When the waters came that June, their basement filled quickly. It was an anxious moment. So imagine their relief when their insurance adjuster came by and said, "You're covered." And then imagine how they felt a few days later when the adjuster came back and said the story had changed. It turns out that their sewer backup coverage had been removed from their policy at renewal without their knowledge. Suddenly, this family found themselves with no insurance. And because sewer backup protection is considered widely available, they were also denied government disaster funding. Their home was ruined, their savings gutted, their trust shattered. To this day, Melissa's parents still get anxious when heavy rains begin to fall. This is not just a story about a family left behind. It's a story about what happens when the system breaks down. It's a story about the stakes for Canadians, and we all know the stakes are rising. Severe weather is not an abstract future threat. It's here. It's intensifying. It's reshaping our industry, our communities, and our national economy. Think about the images we've seen. Entire neighborhoods underwater. Evacuations in the dead of night. Families huddled in community centers with little more than the clothes on their backs. Lives upended in an instant. Billions of dollars in damage. To navigate this challenge, we need to address 2 emerging gaps. First, a knowledge gap. Too many homeowners don't understand their coverage. Too many find out about exclusions and limits only after disaster strikes. Second, an impending coverage gap. As high-risk flood and wildfire zones expand, more homeowners are struggling to find affordable protection. Without urgent action, that gap will widen. So let's start with the knowledge gap. We all need insurance, but how well do we understand what we're buying? Too many Canadians don't know what their policies cover. Too many assume they're protected from floods, only to discover after disaster strikes that they are not. We tested this. We went out to the streets of Calgary and asked people about their coverage. The answers confirmed what we've already suspected: confusion, uncertainty, mistaken assumptions. Let's take a look.
When I got house insurance for both my properties, at no point did I have a broker sit down and go through the policy for me.
The particulars of my agreement, I'm not sure of off the top of my head.
But I definitely do know it should cover flood and fire. I believe stolen goods, or like if there was like a robbery or something at some point.
Oh, being honest, I don't know completely what it covers, but I know it does cover for fire. But
for all the natural disasters that do happen, I have no idea what I'm covered for. I really don't know. Yeah, my policy covers many things. It's really important for me because I live by the river that it covers floods.
To be honest, I don't know the exact, detailed information of what's in my policy. I do have a lot of trust in my insurance person who organized that with me.
It can feel a little bit daunting, I suppose, to know all of the ins and outs of what's covered and under what criteria. So I guess I do place a lot of trust in my insurance agent when it comes to that too.
This is where we, as an industry, have a responsibility. Education has always been at the core of what we do. And today is no different. It's still on us, brokers, agents, frontline professionals, to help Canadians understand what they're buying, what they're covered for, and what they're not. And more important than that, we need to help them understand their risk. The house they just bought, is it on a floodplain? Is it in an area that's now at high risk for wildfire? The first step to reducing risk is fully understanding the potential perils. We can and should help with that. So that's one part of it. But there's another element of the knowledge gap. How well do homeowners and business owners understand the connection between growing frequency and intensity of severe weather events and the price they pay for insurance? Let's go back to the streets and hear from our customers directly.
I have noticed that my premiums have gone up over time. They've gone up pretty significantly on my end. The reasoning, I'm not sure why, but I have a feeling it could be due to weather-related events.
The last few years for this wildfires have been the worst that I can ever remember in my life, so I do think that severe weather is definitely playing a part.
I have heard from a lot of other people that and I have been warned that when we renew next year, ours is going up. The main reason I've heard is because of the massive amounts of hail damage in Calgary the last couple of years.
Actually, this month, it's my new renewal for the second year, and it did go up quite steeply. And to be honest, I cannot see why it had to go up with that amount.
My premiums have gone up. I have not seen my latest one because I have a feeling because of my last claim it will, but that's not the concerning. My premiums have been going up because all my neighbors' houses are burning down, i.e. in other cities and stuff, and I know I'm paying for it. Do I like it? No, but I understand how the process works.
There's so many caps on different things with the government. I'm not sure why they haven't capped home insurance policies.
We've always prided ourselves on helping to educate Canadians about the steps they can take to shield themselves from danger and risk. Agents, brokers, reps, communications professionals, all of us working together to help Canadians make informed decisions. But we still have work to do in helping them make the connection between what's happening across our country, how it's impacting the insurance they rely on, and what they can do to better protect themselves from risk. Earlier this year, IBC took our message directly to Canadians. We launched a campaign across television, radio, digital, and social media platforms. The goal was twofold. First, to highlight the vital role of Canada's P&C insurers, and to share guidance on how severe weather is impacting Canadians and the steps they can take to better protect themselves. Let's watch.
This is severe weather. It's getting worse in Canada, and we are all paying the price. But this is what protecting Canadians from the impact of severe weather looks like. The 140,000 people in our home, auto, and business insurance industry working in your community, advocating for solutions that protect all Canadians. It's all part of our plan to protect the things we love.
So yes, a little bit of education, and yes, a bit of well-earned recognition for an industry that's stepped up in the face of growing risk. An industry that has gone to tremendous lengths over the past several years to help Canadians deal with the growing impacts of flood and fire. We always want to speak directly to the people we serve. We want to help them understand the forces at work in our world and how home and business owners can better protect themselves with both insurance and action. Today, more than ever, it's important we tell our own story. That's why we're highlighting our industry's leadership on climate and helping people grasp the connection between the growing number of severe weather events and the impact on insurance affordability. It's all part of our broader effort to inform people and encourage governments at all levels to do their part in helping reduce risk in communities across our country. As an industry, we are doing some important work when it comes to helping Canadians recover from severe weather events, when it comes to advocating for measures that will reduce the impact of those events, and when it comes to sharing information that could help reduce the impact of a crisis. A great example is our collective work in building and funding an organization whose sole purpose is helping home and business owners reduce their exposure to risk. The Institute for Catastrophic Loss Reduction has become a world-class center for disaster prevention research and communication, exploring new techniques for risk mitigation, issuing bulletins on commercial risk reduction, publishing detailed primers on how best to protect homes and businesses from wildfire, flooding, snow, wind, and ice storms. Canadians need to know that we're working in their interests and on their behalf. As I've said before, they may never love us, but there is room for them to better understand and appreciate what we're doing on their behalf. And along the way, I think it's so important to showcase what makes our industry great. Its stability, its reliability, its people. Which brings me to the second challenge, the impending coverage gap. Today, more and more Canadians live in high-risk flood or wildfire zones. More and more of them are discovering that their coverage is changing or not available for those at greatest risk of flooding. As an industry, we can innovate. We can design new products. But we cannot rewrite land use policies. We cannot decide where new housing developments are built. We cannot overhaul building codes. Only governments can do that. And so I ask, why haven't governments acted? Because let's be clear, our industry has not been sitting still. Think about where we were just over a decade ago. Flood insurance barely existed in Canada. Today, 94% of Canadian homes are eligible for it. That's not government, that's us. We developed the products, we adapted the policies, we paid out billions to help Canadians recover from the worst days of their lives. When disasters multiplied, we didn't blink. We leaned in. Last summer alone, in the span of just 5 weeks, Canada endured 3 major floods, a catastrophic wildfire, and a destructive hailstorm. Together, these events generated 250,000 insurance claims. That's 50% more than Canadians typically file in an entire year. We didn't flinch. We stood up, we paid out, we delivered. So I ask, if insurers can adapt this quickly, if we can innovate to protect Canadians, why can't government keep pace in doing its part? Let's look at the trajectory. In 2001, insured payouts for natural catastrophes were around $400 million. Fast forward to 2019, and insured payouts for natural catastrophes were $1.7 billion. In 2020 and 2021, $2.5 billion. In 2022 and 2023, $3.7 billion. Last year, more than $9 billion. $9 billion. And those are just insured losses. The broader economic costs, uninsured damages, lost productivity, broken supply chains are even greater. We've seen it across our country. In British Columbia, atmospheric rivers swallowing up highways and cutting communities off for weeks. In Alberta, hailstorms leaving behind billions in shattered windows, destroyed cars, and torn up roofs. In Quebec and Ontario, flooding filling basements with water. In Atlantic Canada, post-tropical storms bringing floods to places that had never experienced them before. And wildfires in almost every province and territory across our country. This is not a regional issue. It's not a one-off. It's nothing short of a national crisis, one that is growing, putting more lives and property at risk. And still, year after year, we find ourselves wondering, why isn't government taking this more seriously? Building codes and land use rules remain outdated. Infrastructure investments lag behind. Communities are left without the resources to build resilience, to map risks, to retrofit vulnerable homes. These are government responsibilities. And while our industry has modernized at speed, governments are years behind. Some are trying to catch up, but they're still not there. Some have good ideas, but they're not supporting those ideas with necessary investments. What's required is an appreciation for the urgency of the challenge we face together and meaningful action to address that challenge. So let's get into it a little bit deeper. What should governments be doing? What should they prioritize? We've been clear. Today, in fact, we're launching a 3-point plan, all common sense recommendations. First, let's stop putting people in harm's way. Update building codes, modernize land use policies, ensure that we're building new homes, we're not putting them in high-risk zones. Think about it. Why are we still approving subdivisions in known floodplains? Why are we still allowing homes to be built in wildfire corridors where the chance of disaster is not just high, but inevitable? As recently as a couple of years ago, the federal government was touting a historic housing plan that made no mention of where new homes should be built, or, more to the point, where they should not be built. Yes, when it comes to housing, affordability is important. But I ask you, what is less affordable than a home that needs to be built twice? Second, invest in resilience. Fund infrastructure upgrades, create detailed national and local risk maps, provide incentives for homeowners to retrofit their properties. Imagine what it would mean for communities to have proper drainage systems, upgraded dikes, and flood barriers in place before disaster strikes. Imagine giving homeowners tax incentives to install backwater valves, reinforce their roofs, or use fire-resistant materials. Some municipalities are leading the way in encouraging homeowners to take meaningful steps to reduce their vulnerability. But we need a more concerted and coordinated effort to step up our resilience game. California is the cautionary tale of our time. Government chose to suppress premiums instead of mitigating risk. The result? 3.6 million policies weren't renewed between 2020 and 2023. Do we want to live in a place where the risks are so pronounced that insurers can, in some cases, no longer offer coverage? A place where homeowners are left without policies and families are left without financial protection? This is happening in real time in California, and it's a frightening glimpse into the potential costs of failing to adapt to our changing world. You can't regulate your way out of climate change. You can't regulate your way out of risk. We need to understand and respond to the world as it is and the risks as they are. And finally, the third part of our plan, close protection gaps resulting from our changing climate. Canadians at highest risk of floods still can't access coverage. We're one of the few G8 countries without a public-private partnership to address flood risk. That has to change. None of the ideas in our 3-point plan are new. All are just common sense. And yet here we are, still pressing, still advocating, still asking the same questions. Why won't government act? What's it going to take? Let me bring it back to where I started. That family in High River. They weren't on a floodplain. They thought they had coverage. They trusted the system. And when disaster struck, they were left on their own. We in this room are doing our part. We've innovated, we've expanded coverage, we've launched education campaigns, we've paid out billions. We've been there for Canadians on the worst days of their lives. But the reality is, we cannot close these gaps alone. Governments must step up. And until they do, Canadians remain exposed. And if you think it's bad today, think about the next 5 years. Think about where we are in 2030 if governments continue to stall. Think of the lost homes and heartache. Think of the financial challenges that Canadian families will be forced to endure. This is a moment of truth for our industry and for our country. We know what needs to be done. We have a plan. So let's continue to do our part. Let's press harder. Let's speak louder. Let's make the case in every forum, at every table, until the message breaks through. Let's say to government, all the warning signs are there. The storms, the growing threats to lives and property. We've all seen the devastation. Lives lost, property destroyed, the heartache, the trauma, the economic impact. All of it is there for us to see. So I ask again, what's it going to take? Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.